Okay, good day, Maswati Lamahle. Once again, we're doing our Finance in Focus. This time we're doing it from Washington, D.C. So at the moment, we are in Washington, D.C. having our what we call the annual meeting. So we come here twice a year as all the ministers of finance from around the world. We meet twice a year here at the World Bank and the IMF to talk about all the different things we're dealing with and all the loans we're trying to raise and where we are as a country, where they can support us, what technical assistance they can give. We have those meetings now. Now, because we all as ministers of finance come here, we find that there are many other meetings that are structured around this week because all the ministers of finance are here and other entities take advantage of that and meet us here. So we have a extremely busy week while we are here. We've been started on Monday morning and it's now Saturday, and it's been morning to night. It's just been meetings after meetings, sometimes hour and hour, just having different meetings with different people. And so one has a few meetings with the World Bank, which is mostly handled by Minister Gina as the Minister of Economic Planning. But obviously with the World Bank, we've got some programs going on with them. At the same time, we're talking about what do we look at new, what are the Eswatini's ambitions for new loans to come out for the World Bank. At the same time, they meet with the IMF. IMF, obviously a different agenda. As we know, Eswatini, we fully repaid the IMF money we owe them. But at the same time, they are the entity that really helps us with all sorts of measures and tools and analysis. They do an Article 4, which is probably one of the most critical reviews of us as a country, which people that loan us money look at before they loan us money. So to get that relationship right, to make sure we all understand each other well, we spend a lot of time with them too while we are here. But at the same time, while I've been here as the Minister of Finance, now chairing STC, which is the Ministers of Finance at the AU level, there have also been G20 meetings. As we know, G20 this year was hosted by South Africa, who is a G20 member, and the AU now has a permanent seat around the G20 table. They always had like a spectator seat, but about 3 years ago, if not mistaken, G20 gave them a permanent seat as the AU around the G20 table. So now, as the Minister of Finance for the AU, I'm now I'm just representing the AU at those meetings and making interventions and doing speeches on all the different sessions. And so there were 4 different sessions, and those meetings went very well, very Africa focused, trying to look at where are the possible imbalances between the financial architectures, understanding it really is G20 has a powerful voice on how the World Bank and the IMF are structured and how financial architecture around the world works. And so it was really great for the AU to have a strong voice there and for us to now really put our case forward on what we believe needs to change so that we can bring the change we need to be able to help Africa thrive and do better as we are as a continent. Those meetings were also quite intense, and we had the 2 half days of those meetings on the G20 front. At the same time, met different funders. In fact, 2 very good meetings that I had here was the OPEC fund, which has given us budget support now, but just on our way forward with the OPEC fund, very keen to help us to also fund the Mkondo Ngwavuma project, what we're calling Phase 2B is the funding we're trying to raise now. As people know, the Mkondo Ngwavuma project, we now have Phase 1, that's virtually raised the funds for it. We've got Phase 2 now, the Temba Dam at Mkitini, that's going to be built, a huge dam, water a pipe put under the Hlatikulu mountain range into the Ngwavuma catchment area so that we can irrigate this 30,000 hectares of land in the greater Lavomisa area. And fantastic soils, first of the poor people living there, so it's really going to have a huge impact on our economy. Anyway, the OPEC fund is willing to not only help us with funding for that Phase 2B, but also give us a grant support to be able to do a feasibility on making sure we maximize on the hydroelectricity potential that we can create on the water going from that high elevation to low elevation. There's a lovely hydro plan we can do there, and we're going to be now very intentional to make sure we get everything. So the meeting with them went very well. They've committed to help funding, as well as committed to help to bring the other, what we call referred to as Arab funders, together to support, to make sure we have a large enough group of funding there. Also had a very good meeting with the Saudi fund. We haven't taken a loan from them yet, but they are very keen to help and support us as a country, as a Saudi fund, Saudi Arabia being a lovely friend of Eswatini. And so that meeting went very well too. And otherwise meetings with statistics teams, with FAD, with Moody's. Just had a meeting now with Moody's, of the rating agency that looks at Eswatini, constantly seeing what we are doing right, what we're doing wrong. As I think last night, for instance, There was one of our neighboring countries that were a downgrade from Moody's. But Eswatini, as we know, last year or the year before, I think it was, we got an upgrade. Went from, we were very low. We were B3 rating, we went to B2 rating. And it's a matter of now still seeing what we can do to not go backwards, number one, but to see if we can continue moving forward, even up the rating scale. The better our ratings are, the cheaper our funding becomes as a country, which we get from generally the private sector. So it is an important thing to try and focus on and to try and get right. But otherwise, I think the team, we had a small team here, also from the Ministry of Finance, a team of 4 people, and everyone was really supportive. Often we had to split up because we had to be in different places at the same time. And so as a team, we had sometimes different people handling different meetings, so to just make sure that we represented very well on all the different fronts. But yeah, different meetings around small states, Africa caucus meetings, even before we get to the main IMF and World Bank meetings, we meet as an Africa constituency, sometimes even as a sub-region, to make sure what our agendas agree on the agenda, so we have a unified voice at the World Bank and at the IMF general meetings. And so yeah, all these meetings took place and generally went very well, and we believe that we continue to be on the right track as a country to get ourselves into a high growth country is really where the main focus are. As a country, we've been very honest to say we have a problem in Eswatini with poverty, with unemployment, but we're really pushing to try and get our growth right, so that the growth means that there's better jobs for Eswatini and more jobs, and we know that when we get that right, it's going to help on the poverty front and take people out of poverty. And so a lot of our agenda is around that, and we feel that it was a very successful week here in Washington, D.C., and we're heading home tomorrow with knowing that we've worked hard, and we feel we've accomplished quite a bit. Thank you, Eswatini.